Hi, it's Tash. Welcome to Tash's Library. Today's video is going to be the start of a new series of videos, which has been inspired by the fact that I have felt odd not doing my monthly wrap-ups. Now, I haven't done monthly wrap-ups largely because they're not viewed a lot. They take a lot of time and I have been quite busy. But I do feel like I want to share my thoughts on some of the books I've read. So I've decided that I'm going to do this sort of rapid review style where I will review, say, 3 or 4 books in a particular genre or new releases, etc. You'll know exactly what books I am reviewing, and then you can decide if you want to watch that or not. So today is the first video, and I've decided to start with 2024 new releases that I have read this year. So the first book I'm going to be reviewing is The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. And this is the first book in a new series called Shadow of the Leviathan. Now, I gave this 5 stars. It was actually the second best book of the first half of the year for me, and I adored it. So in a world sort of facing a Leviathan threat from the seas, okay, and relying on plants in very, very unique ways, you have this Holmes and Watson-esque detective duo, Anna and Dinios, who are asked to investigate a strange murder where a tree grows out of a man. I know, sounds really quirky. I love this. It is such innovative world building. There's this interdependence with plants where people can have body modifications using plants. And so, for example, Dinios, our assistant detective, has a superb memory. So he uses scents to remember everything photographically. So really, really unique world building. There's also a great murder mystery in there. And one thing I have discovered is I absolutely adore fantasy or sci-fi books with mysteries embedded in them. Just so awesome. You also have this great backdrop of societal peril. So even while they're investigating this mystery, you do have these leviathans that are threatening the towns. So there is this sense of higher stakes in the background. There's a fabulous interaction between the narrative voice, Dinios, and the main detective, Anna. Just really cool banter, really great relationship there. There are some fabulous plot twists. The supporting characters are awesome, and pretty much just Robert Jackson Bennett just writes so beautifully, and he's shaping up to be one of my favorite writers. So if you haven't read this, I would highly recommend it to anyone really who loves lush, unique world building, those who enjoy mystery elements in their fantasy in particular. The second book I'm going to briefly describe is The Book of Doors by Gareth Brown. And this I gave 5 stars to as well. This follows Cassie, who's a bookstore worker, and at the end of one of her working days, she's given this magical book by an elderly customer who visits most days. When she gets home, she realizes that this book actually opens up portals to any door in the world at any time. It's initially very intriguing. She's pretty excited to explore this magic, but the artifact is sought after by very unsavory characters, and the stakes start becoming quite perilous. I absolutely adored the structure of this novel. It was so masterfully constructed, how it dealt with different times, etc. It was just beautiful, superb. The portal magic was great. The characters were just really endearing, incredibly well developed. It had very emotional scenes. The scope of the plot was just incredible. Very high tension, very high stakes, but I just read it in a day. I sat down and read it in a day. I could not put it down because this book was just engrossing. And I would really recommend this to anyone who likes intricate plots with excellent character development, anyone seeking a new take on time travel or portal magic. The third book I want to briefly mention is The Silverblood Promise by James Logan, and this is the first in a series called The Last Legacy. This I gave 4 stars to, but I really enjoyed it. It follows a heavy drinking, gambling university dropout called Lucan, who finds out that his father was murdered, and he vows to use the few clues left to him to discover the truth and seek his revenge. So he travels to this particular city where he comes across various foes and allies. I really liked these intriguing glimpses of magic in it. It's quite a unique magic system, even though you don't find out a lot about it in the first book. It's got this great urban setting, so it's almost like an epic fantasy in terms of the scope of the book, but with urban fantasy feel. And it's got this great underbelly in it too. So you've got really the scum of the scum. You've got all sorts of criminal goings on. Really well written as well. Riveting. The companion character Flea is awesome. What kind of brought it down a little bit for me here is I initially felt like I was reading something I'd read before. It didn't feel particularly unique. I think I'm a little bit sick of that cocky, disgruntled young man with a gambling, drinking problem who gets caught up in a conspiracy and is woe is me. So that didn't initially appeal to me. But if that doesn't appeal to you, I would highly recommend that you push on, because the book just becomes epic and the characters actually become really endearing. So I actually quite ended up enjoying reading Lucan, and I like him as a character now. So definitely push on. I think anyone who enjoys urban fantasy akin to the Lies of Locke Lamora would adore this. And I'm going to review a 4th book, just mainly because I have to talk about this book, and that's When Among Crows by Veronica Roth, which I gave 5 stars to. Now this is a really short little book. You can read really quickly, and it's a Slavic urban fantasy following Demeter, who belongs to a family of monster hunters, and he seeks Baba Yaga and faces his own internal demons along with a monster who inhabited Chicago. So he needs help, but finds himself allied with Allah, who is a Zmora, one of the monsters. So I would describe this as Constantine with Slavic folklore. The folklore is very well described. It has a really dark, menacing feel. And in some cases you feel like the plot maybe isn't going anywhere, but it's just building this tension, which is so menacing. And the characters are intriguing, nuanced. Allah is one of my favorite characters. She creates illusions. She's quite emotionally tortured. There are gradual reveals that are quite intriguing, very fairy tale-esque prose, great juxtaposition of myth and modernity, which I think was done really well. It explores themes of family and duty and expectations and prejudice, good versus evil, personal sacrifice, and has a really tight plot. For me, if the only things that might put you off is it, as I said, it does feel like not much is happening at times. Because it is a short book, it does sacrifice some development of characters in order to further the plot. I would have also liked a little bit more description of this alternate Chicago, but I would highly recommend this to any lovers of folklore looking for a short read. And that is that. They're my first 4 book reviews. Stay tuned for more, and until I see you next time, take care.